Welcome to the Shyamcast. This is Brett.
This is Shyam.
Thanks for being with us as we continue our study of Bhagavad Gita. So, Shyam, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing well.
Mm,
Yeah. A lot going on at the Krishna house. A lot
I,
of some people visiting, a lot of people a lot of like people just staying there, it's like a full
mm,
house right now.
it's full house. There's not even a single room. In fact, we have to put people in two rooms, two people in a room now.
Mm, yeah. And we're also just in the process of like finally moving into a new bigger temple
Mm,
space.
mm,
So that's an exciting thing too. The
mm,
Krishna Community Center of
mm,
Grand Rapids is about to open.
mm. We are opening on Janmashtami Day, which is August 25th, 26th.
Janmashtami Day. Can you tell the audience what Janmashtami is?
Janmashtami. So Janma means appearance, and Ashtami means eight.
Means what?
Eight.
Eight.
Eighth.
Eighth. Okay.
So, it's said eighth day from the waxing or waning moon is called Ashtami. So, because Janmashtami comes on the eighth day of waning moon and it's related to Krishna's appearance, it's called Shri Krishna Janmashtami.
Mm,
It's the biggest festival in the year,
very nice.
and pomp and show, lot of activities for the
Yeah.
event.
His birthday.
His
I
birthday,
guess
yeah,
that's what we would,
basically,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, cool, yeah. Um, so another exciting thing for us here is we're starting a new chapter of Bhagavad Gita today. We're
Mm,
going to get into chapter 3
mm,
and talk about karma yoga,
mm, mm,
which is the title of this chapter.
mm,
Um, chapter 2 was called The Contents of the Gita Summarized.
mm,
So, we spent some time and had several episodes in there and really explored a lot of chapter 2.
mm,
That was like everything in the Bhagavad Gita in a sense, in a summarized portion, or just, this is like the essence. This is a lot of the main stuff that you need to get. And now we're going to get into a little more detail. And it begins with Arjuna showing a little bit more confusion, right? After Krishna has
mm,
spent the first half of chapter 2 talking about the soul, the nature of the soul,
mm,
what we all are as living entities,
mm,
and then going into in the second half, um, the the importance on regulative principles of freedom, the importance of renunciation, the importance of tolerating desires instead of giving, or sort of following them around.
mm,
Um, and so Arjuna begins this chapter with another question to Krishna,
mm,
um, where he says, he asks, okay, if you've been telling me basically that it seems like intelligence is kind of the more important thing here.
mm,
Gaining knowledge and gaining this discernment, this, increasing my intelligence or my buddhi, as it said, buddhi
mm,
yoga,
mm,
is more important.
mm,
That seems to be what you're saying.
mm,
So he asks Krishna, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare?
mm,
If intelligence is better, or it seems to be what you're telling me. And he says, in the a follow-up verse, so like my intelligence is feeling bewildered. I'm feeling a little bewildered um by your equivocal instruction.
mm,
Basically your instruction, I can take it in more than one way. It's not entirely clear to me what you're saying, because you're telling me to fight in this war,
mm,
but you're talking a lot about renunciation. You're talking
mm,
about, tolerating sense pleasures rather than going after them. So it kind
mm,
of seems like to Arjuna, like Krishna is saying, don't act, but at
mm,
the same time saying, fight in this war.
mm,
Right. Um, and so then he just says, please, tell me decisively, well,
mm,
what's going to be the most beneficial thing for me.
mm, mm. So there is some one point here, Prabhu, which is very interesting, is When we are attached to a thought process, even if we hear many things, we still try to justify our thought process based on what we are hearing. Even if that's not the actual meaning of what the other person is saying, we still perceive things what they are saying based on what we want to hear. So it is said, like, many people write commentaries on Bhagavad Gita, and they bring out the point from Bhagavad Gita that resonates to them. And they explain Bhagavad Gita from that perspective. So Krishna is very clear in his communication, but Arjuna is attached not to fight. So among many things that Krishna says, Arjuna finds one thing and his mind says yes. So it means that I should not fight. So that's the kind that comes out. So actually the instructions were not equivocal. Instructions were straightforward. But Arjuna was inclined and he doesn't want to fight. So he's bringing this as an argument.
Mm. So he's interpreting it in a way that benefits what he wants to do,
What he wants.
essentially. Yeah. Would you say that I suppose because he doesn't want to fight in this battle,
Mm.
you could think of that as being like gratifying his senses. Like, maybe he's thinking of it as, well, I'm gonna not do a thing, or I want to not engage in something. So maybe,
That is
fighting
correct.
would be the engaging the senses, but I don't want to do that, right? But really it's more of like as we'll get into in this chapter, it's about doing your duty and your responsibilities rather than always just doing that thing that you feel like doing.
Mm. That is correct. Yes. This is Arjuna's kind of gratification.
Yeah. So after he asks Krishna that, so Krishna begins by, sort of splitting up people, seekers into two different classes. He says, as I've already explained to you, there's two classes of men who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service. Um, so I guess I'd want to point out the Sanskrit that he uses in
Mm.
these verses. He
Mm.
says, basically it's like there's two kind of people who seek the
Mm.
self. One is, jnana yogena,
Mm.
one is
Mm.
karma yogena.
Mm. Mm.
The jnanis and the practice of jnana yoga and the practice of
Mm.
karma yoga.
Mm.
Um, so and jnana yoga it's translated as empirical philosophical speculation,
Mm.
and then karma yoga is translated as devotional service.
Mm.
So can you talk a little bit about those two
Both.
terms?
Mm.
Yeah.
So, Prabhu, Gyan Yoga is things are not done for the pleasure of Krishna. Karma Yoga is things are done for the pleasure of Krishna. Yoga means that helps us connect with Krishna. Gyan Yoga is speculative. They read scriptures and all they do is they come amongst each other and they discuss. And then when they feel some, say, unwanted habit, then they talk about and then they put this and that. So in this way, there is no direct bhakti or karma, but it's just about speculating and discussing, and it's dry. Like we have experience in our own tradition when we come and we do, say, like we do kirtans, or we have some kind of bhakti yoga. Then we feel that nourishment within our heart. But if we just talk on dry matter, and the talk is not about divine also, it's just about this material world and how this material world is temporary from different part of the Vedas, lot of speculation, dry, heavy, and no nourishment. So that's the path of Gyan Yoga. It's recommended for those who are very renounced, like artificial renounced. Then okay, you take the path of Gyan because too tough people. kind of. Bhakti yoga, Krishna says, is for those who are balanced,
Mm.
who have love, who have emotions.
Mm.
And
So,
that's karma yoga. Go ahead.
okay, yeah, that was so I wanted to clarify then. Karma, like how are karma are we equating karma yoga and bhakti yoga here? Or like what is, how do we think of the two of them and how those two types of yoga are connected, karma yoga and
Thank you,
bhakti
Prabhu.
yoga?
So Bhakti Yoga is things done for the pleasure of Krishna. And when Arjuna is fighting and he is fighting for the pleasure of Krishna, then here Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga becomes one
Mm,
because it's a complete act of devotion. But it may not be true in all the cases. Like I may be doing my karma, but I'm kind of giving some results to Krishna. But I'm not really doing it because Krishna wants it. I'm doing it because I want it, but I'm centering it around Krishna. So there, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga separates. There is like some mixture. But for Arjuna, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga is exactly the same. It's only for the pleasure of Krishna and no personal desires.
mm. So in a sense, are we sort of splitting up all sort of actions into like there's basically selfish actions and then there's selfless actions. And
Yes.
so the karma yoga that Krishna is talking about or the bhakti yoga is trying to move toward selfless action or
Mm,
selfless service to
mm,
where, as you say, it's done for the pleasure of Krishna. So it's
mm,
like you're literally trying to make God happy. You want to
mm.
learn about what actually makes God happy, and then you want to do though just those things.
Yeah. So, like for example, we know there are 9 ways to practice Bhakti Yoga. One of them is hearing about the Lord, glorifying the Lord, remembering the Lord. But the purpose is to please the Lord. And when our work is only for the pleasure of the Lord, there is actually no difference.
Mm,
There, that's why Prabhupada translates Karma Yoga into Bhakti Yoga, which some people may question, but then a realized soul can directly see this is the act of pure Bhakti Yoga here.
mm,
And technical term used is Sakam Karma Yoga and Nishkama Karma Yoga. So Kam means desire. Sakam Karma Yoga means yoga with a desire, personal motive. Yoga only for that. So Nishkam Karma Yoga goes parallel with Bhakti Yoga.
mm. Very nice. Yeah, sometimes it can get a little confusing when you read like the different types of yogas or the different, sort of descriptions because, there are four main types of yoga that are described
Mm,
in Bhagavad Gita. But then
mm,
there's sort of, maybe like you're saying, like there's with karma yoga, which is one of them, there's sort of two different types, or you can think of maybe there's two
mm,
different sort of levels. There's one level that's a little bit more surface where there's still sort of desire mixed in, and then there's a deeper
mm,
level where, it's getting more into like totally selfless,
mm,
devotional action. Um, and so, Krishna mentions two of them in this verse anyway. He says
mm,
karma yoga, he says jnana yoga. Um, and he does say that these are still like all these people who are practicing these things, no matter what they're doing, they're all seeking the self. They're all seeking the truth.
mm,
They're carrying out in whatever this specific way. Um, like you say, like a gyan yogi is like a philosopher, I guess. Like wants to
yes.
talk about, like,
Mm,
read things, discuss. Um, and then, further on especially as we get into some of the next few chapters, we'll learn about dhyana yoga,
mm,
like meditative yoga, I suppose,
mm,
and then bhakti, which
mm,
he sort of talks about throughout the Bhagavad Gita, but at a certain point he does, there is a chapter anyway called devotional service, and so he
mm,
gets into that, specifically. But um, I mean, I guess you can see how all these different types of yogas blend together.
mm,
Um, like, even in, when we study Krishna consciousness, for example, we still read a lot, reading is still an important aspect of it.
mm,
Um, and it's when we speak about it, there's more of an emphasis on like talk about really just what happened, talk about what it was that you read without like I guess the word is speculating without trying to branch off into too many different areas in the mind of what it could potentially mean or what, it's like sort of just focus on what was it that you read.
Mm.
Um, and what is like the direct meaning, the direct realization to be had from that.
So there is a difference between both kinds of reading also, the books they read.
Mm,
So like in Bhakti Yoga, we read books which is about pure devotees, life of Prahlad Maharaj. And life of Prahlad Maharaj only speaks about how he practiced Bhakti Yoga. Life of Dhruva Maharaj, Maharaj Dhruva, how he practiced Bhakti Yoga. And all these kings, whether it's Arjuna or Yudhishthir, we are reading, but that is helping us to understand what is Bhakti Yoga, how to practice Bhakti Yoga. And or we are hearing directly about the Lord or different incarnations of the Lord. So everything is about the Lord, the words spoken by the Lord, or the pure devotees of the Lord. So it's all Bhakti Yoga. And if
mm,
we see the first principle of Bhakti Yoga is Shravana, which is hearing. But it is hearing about the Lord or those directly connected to the Lord. But people in Gyan Yoga, they have different sets of Vedas and books that they kind of read, which is not directly connected to the Lord.
mm,
And I would like to give one example about Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga where they coincide. So Srila Prabhupada had a disciple. So Prabhupada is our founder Acharya, our teacher. Um, and we read many of his books. So he was in New York and he rented this one room near Thompson Square Park in New York. And then he had no money to pay rent for the room. So there was one devotee, one of the follower of Bhagavad Gita. He wanted to serve Prabhupada, spread the mission, and like live full time, leave his job, and just focus on his spiritual life, take a break and just focus on his spiritual life. So Prabhupada told him, no, you work. So he was very qualified. So he would go to job and whatever he would get, he would use that to pay the rent for the where Prabhupada was staying. So there, his motive was just to follow what spiritual master says and just to support spreading of the mission. He was whole and soul doing it for that. So then that karma yoga is pure bhakti yoga because it's directly following instructions of spiritual master. So at one point of time, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, they seems to merge.
mm, mm.
But also we hear that bhakti yoga is free from karma. Bhakti is free from karma and bhakti yoga merge. It just depends upon what is our definition of how we are performing karma.
Mm. And so, yeah, as a quick reminder, karma means action.
Mm,
And so it's like what we do, right?
mm,
And the reactions to those things that we do. And
mm,
so karma yoga at its essence means the yoga through action. So how do you achieve union with
mm,
the divine through your actions?
mm, mm,
Um, and so, Krishna talks a lot in this chapter about that. I mean, it's like it's doing
mm,
your duty.
mm,
It's not about sort of following whatever it is that you feel like doing, which
mm,
often does involve like the sense pleasures. It's about, performing those actions. So I guess, I think of the situation you're describing, with this devotee where the karma yoga was keep working, even though
mm,
you actually want to commit more time to spiritual
mm,
practice, there's a greater need,
mm,
through the whole community,
mm,
um, to pay the rent. And it's sort of
mm,
like if
mm,
you're in that position to
mm,
work and to pay the rent, then that's, what your duty is. That
mm,
actually is the best thing for you to be doing. So that's karma yoga.
mm,
And so then one step further, how it's becoming bhakti yoga is it's done for the pleasure of the or under the order of the spiritual master, right? Or basically, it's because your guru wants you to do it,
mm,
and you have faith in that guru, and so you just do what you do what
mm,
that guru says.
mm,
So that's bhakti yoga,
mm, mm.
which I guess I just repeated what you said, but it helps me think through everything. Um, so then, just moving on to our next verse,
Mm,
um, Krishna says something interesting here. he says that not by merely abstaining from work can one
mm,
achieve freedom from reaction,
mm,
nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection.
mm,
So he spent some time in chapter 2 discussing renunciation. Um, and like as you said at one point as well, like renunciation is a great thing. It's like that thing that gives us freedom actually. We can
mm,
let things go.
mm,
And so Krishna is saying, however, it's not the only thing that you need to do. You can't just renounce and totally get there, right?
mm,
There's more things are required.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and then, the first part of this verse where he says, not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction.
mm,
I think that's interesting because you might think that if I just stop working or I stop doing stuff, all those reactions will come and go and they'll eventually dwindle away and then I won't have to deal with any more reactions. I won't have to
mm,
deal with any more karma if I just
mm.
stop doing things,
And that's
right?
what Arjuna's thought was. Arjuna
Mm,
thought was, if I fight, then I will incur sinful reactions and I will have to go through reactions. So I don't want to fight. Means indirectly, if I don't fight, I will remain free. I'll be safe.
mm, mm. And the next thing Krishna says is that everyone is forced to act. He actually uses the word helplessly.
Mm,
People are forced to act helplessly according to the modes of material nature.
mm,
Um, and so he says, therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment.
mm,
So he's sort of dispelling the whole idea that it's possible to do absolutely nothing or to just sort of stop, renounce everything and go off. It's actually not possible.
mm. So let's think about these two. Let's talk a bit about, can abstaining work make us free from reaction? What do you think?
Hmm. Well, if I stop working,
Mm,
then I won't be able to pay for anything. So I won't be able to live. Um, and I suppose I would also, if I stopped working, not just in the sense of like work to earn money, but just if I stopped doing work, if I stopped, you know, doing work to maintain friendships, if I stopped doing any service whatsoever, I would just also kind of lose all of my friends. And, I guess there would actually be quite a few reactions I could think of from not doing any work. Um, and yeah, I can see a negative impact on how I would feel and all my
mm.
emotions and thoughts too. So,
Okay, so let's think from perspective of Arjuna.
mm-hmm,
Arjuna is about to fight a battle. And if
mm-hmm,
he fights a battle, he thinks there is some sins involved. So if I don't fight a battle, then I am safe. Then I won't be doing this mass killing. So then is he becoming free from reactions if he doesn't fight?
mm. Well, no, he's not becoming free from reactions. Although I suppose he sort of thinks he is, or he's expressing that,
So
But
in what way he's not
mm,
becoming free from reactions?
mm,
I'm just trying to churn this concept that Krishna is describing about karma yoga, because the principle is karma is important
mm-hmm,
and not doing your karma is not a solution. So
mm,
Krishna is stressing that one must do their activities. So
yeah,
just a big concept. So we're going to churn this concept of what is karma yoga, why it's must to do, and what
mm,
happen if we don't do, and is it possible that we don't do our karma? Is like the churning points. And we'll take Arjuna as an example, then we'll bring it to our life.
mm, sure.
Mm. So
So, or yeah, go ahead, Prabhuji.
yeah, so if Arjuna doesn't fight,
Mm-hmm.
so then is he free now? Free from reactions.
No,
Okay. And
no.
Can we chat a
Um,
little bit more?
well, if he doesn't fight, as actually, Krishna says earlier, like, there's going to be a reaction from the people who knew that he didn't fight. He's going to lose his reputation, he's going to lose
Hmm.
his honor.
Hmm.
Um, and and really like the result is kind of going to be the same anyway, is one of Krishna's points as well. Right. So I know this is maybe a little bit of an aside, but it's like it's not even going to have much of an effect on the actual outcome. It's like the outcome is Krishna's telling him is predetermined, or like it's going to
Hmm.
happen this way.
That's a very
Your
good perspective.
duty is to fight in this battle just
Hmm.
because of the position you're in society, the family you're in the family of rulers. You you're the better rulers and you're the rightful rulers, and so you need to fight this war to take it back from the people who stole it. Um, and I mean, I suppose like the greater point that I think is being made is that there's actually not he doesn't have to face a reaction if he does fight, because that's what his responsibility is, according to the
Great.
modes of nature, right? And so
That's a
the
that's a
actual,
great point.
yeah, the bad reaction would actually come if he doesn't fight.
Perfect. So one thing that we discussed so far is he will get reaction for neglecting his duty. Neglecting one's duty is a sin. We will see that Krishna will speak in this chapter. So he will get sin. Okay, good. Any other perspective when Krishna says um, one is forced to act according to one's nature. So
Mm,
what can we see from that in Arjuna's life if
mm,
he stops fighting?
mm. Um, Krishna says he also says at another point, that you're gonna find a fight anyway, basically,
Hmm.
if you don't
Hmm.
fight, because
Hmm.
that's just your nature is to fight.
Hmm.
Um, so
Now we're
I s-
getting
yeah,
close.
I suppose, well, I don't want to go to myself, but it's sort of like if you like to study,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, if you don't study one thing, you're going to study something else,
Hmm.
right? Like
Hmm.
if you're a fighter, similarly, like you're gonna fight. So you should fight in the battle that is sort of being assigned to you, that you're just naturally like, this is, here it is, here's your battle. And if you say
Hmm.
no, I don't want this one,
Hmm.
you're still going to find
Hmm.
a fight with somebody, right? But it's not going
Hmm.
to be the right one.
Hmm. So for the audience, there are three modes. There is mode of passion, mode of goodness, mode of ignorance. And we have discussed in our beginning series of the Shyamcast, and this will keep coming in Bhagavad Gita also. So Arjuna is a what we technically call a Kshatriya. Kshatriya means a ruling class. And it is Arjuna's, it is basically a mix of mode of goodness and passion. So he has a natural tendency to fight. If he's not fighting here, he'll fight somewhere else. Like as you said, Prabhu. So for him, not fighting is not an option, although it may be a temporary relief, but he will get a sin for not fighting and he'll pick up a quarrel somewhere else. So, what can we learn in our life if we say, I want to renounce and I don't want to do my duty?
Mm.
Maybe because it is too difficult, I'm too attached to my comforts, or I just want to give it up.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a lesson that, we all know, or most of us know what at least some of our duties are. We know what
Hmm.
it is that we're supposed to do. We know what we need to
And
do.
what is our duty based on?
Mm. The Well, I guess, maybe the answer would be the modes of nature, but I
Ah.
guess another way of putting that into context it might mean like the country you're born in, the culture you're born in, the family you're born in, the body you were born in, just everything that comprises your physical identity, like your ego identity, um,
Hmm.
it all sort of just determines more or less, the intelligence you were born with, the the different abilities you were born with, all of those
Hmm.
things sort of lead you down a particular path,
Hmm.
and you just sort of follow what that nature is. Or I guess that's my best way to
Uh,
try to understand it.
so see, if our duty is based on country, nation, body,
Hmm.
then many people will have similar duties who are born in the same nation, same country, similar bodies, same maybe different color bodies and maybe
Hmm.
male or female bodies. Then everyone will have a similar duties. So what is actually karma yoga and what is karma yoga based on?
Mm. Is it just the qualities
That's
that you're
all.
born with?
It's just the three modes. It's not based on anything else. Anything else we do, which is not based on our nature, will be an artificial imposition. It's not sustainable. When we do something that is our nature, we'll be very satisfied doing it for money or not for money. When we do what we like to do, and like some people say, okay, that's your passion. So if you go in your where your passion is, so that passion is basically coming from the three modes. Every previously, the duties were never based on externals. It was always based on nature. Whether one is born in China or born in America or born in Europe or Asia, their duties is based on which modes they are governed by. That's Karma Yoga. Krishna says one is forced to act according to one's nature. Arjuna duty based on the mode is fighting. He want to change his nature by acting like a Brahmana. Brahmana means like a saint, non-violent. He's trying to become like that, but that's not his nature. So Krishna says that's not possible. You are taking that decision. You are thinking that's what I want to do. Some if instead of Arjuna, a Brahmana was there, then his duty is to go away.
Mm.
And that would have been right thing for him. But that's not the thing for Arjuna. So it's
Mm.
not based on such same karma yoga principle does not apply to every living entity.
Mm.
It's
Yes.
more, karma yoga is more of an internal principle.
Mm. So if it were you or I on the battlefield, it would probably be best if we just didn't fight.
No, nobody will place us there, bro. They'll say, no, thank you. You can go. We have some people who
We got
can
this.
take
This
care of.
is taken care of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's taken care. Yes. So karma yoga, the
Mm.
only thing is if we can do that thing that we are attached to without, because every duty will bring some results.
Hmm.
For him, maybe the kingdom. For a Brahmana, it may be the name and fame or just the respect or things like that. For them, maybe control and power and kingdom and those kind of things, influence. So every karma will have a result. So every individual need to work according to his nature and don't be attached to the results. For example, there is a business class. They are technically called Vaishya. Then for them, the result is actually resources in form of wealth or those kind of things. But those are business people.
Mm. So I guess a few
And
things. Oh, sorry, Prabhuji.
mm,
I think it's your internet. Just low. Can you hear me? All right, we're back.
mm,
Anyway, Prabhuji, I think you were talking. you were talking about the different sort of qualities of people. You're talking about business people and
Mm,
how business people like,
mm,
they're the result of their actions. If they
mm,
sort of do the right actions is typically it's like it's wealth, it's resources, it's things like that.
mm.
And so karma yoga is about doing those things that are according to our nature, but without being attached to the result.
That come from their duties.
Mm, mm,
And also, like, now the system is, it's very hard to find out one's karma now, because it's like everything is institutionalized. Everyone is works for a multinational company. Everyone works at Walmart and Myers. It's like, it's like, doesn't matter who you are put into the same bucket, but these are not the same people. They're not
yeah.
like robots, and you put in the same bucket. So people are dissatisfied.
Mm.
No,
So I have a question then.
go ahead.
I guess it's trying to differentiate between sort of what our duty is or what our nature is and some of the things that we really like want to do.
Mm,
Just because, we've talked a lot in the past and a lot about, some of the parts of chapter 2 that talk about like, don't run after sense gratification or don't run after
mm,
like those thoughts in the mind that
mm,
arise that, you want to like satisfy an urge here and there and everywhere.
mm,
But then, here, we are kind of talking about doing the things that you like doing, you know. Um, so I want to just make that differentiation,
mm,
where what we're talking about now is following your natural inclinations, your
mm,
natural capacities,
mm,
just sort of the
mm,
qualities that you have as a
mm,
person. Maybe you do identify with Arjuna and like
mm,
you're a ruler,
mm.
you're like
Strong.
strong. You
Mm,
know, yeah, you like to fight for what is right, you
mm,
know.
mm,
Maybe you identify with like with a business person, like
mm,
you like that sort of that the hard work, the grind, that thrill of, you slowly build something and creating jobs and creating like a flourishing economic environment
They
for
cannot
everybody.
work under anybody. They want to be independent,
Mm.
startup owners.
Oh yeah. So like everybody can relate to one of these areas,
Yeah.
and so I guess that's yeah, because even as I'm listening, I'm kind of trying to draw that distinction. On the one hand, we're saying
Mm,
follow what your nature
mm,
is which is we're kind of saying like do what you like to do, right? That's
yes.
what you're supposed to do is what you are naturally,
Yes.
what you naturally like to do, what you naturally can do. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that are sort of like conditioning. They're just sort of layers of like you've come to really like get stuck in a pattern of engaging in some kind of behavior that is taking more and more of your mind space. And those are the things that in chapter 2, Krishna is saying tolerate and sort of try to back off, right?
Mm,
But at the same time, it doesn't mean that you have to like it's not saying be miserable, right? It's saying like
mm,
you should really follow what it is that you like to do, but those are the things that are healthy,
mm,
whereas these sort of the bad habits and a lot of the negative thought patterns that we get stuck in are not healthy.
mm. So, Prabhu, these are two different things. One
Hmm.
is attachment of the senses to the sense objects.
Hmm.
That's there for everybody. So, tolerate that. Don't get into that loop. And one is what is my duty based on my nature? Do your duty and don't be attached to the results of them, which is maybe long term or the direct sensual pleasures. But do your duty in the spirit of detachment for the pleasure of Krishna. That is Karma Yoga.
Hmm. Hmm. Sorry, I'm just kind of reading. Um,
I have one more interesting observation.
yeah,
Suppose you are
yeah.
in a multinational company,
Okay.
say Walmart. software center. Some people there will become managers. Some will be software developer. Some will be natural born leaders. Some will just sit in one place and make the code and just deliver, and whatever asked there to do, they will do it. Everyone there also is acting according to one's nature.
Mm,
Even if they're put in one situation that's not their nature, they will quickly move to another where they will excel.
mm,
They will not excel what is not according to their nature. So people
mm,
need to understand this concept of where is karma yoga arising from. It's from the it's from the outside forces that are impelling us, and we have to work accordingly. And we just direct it in a divine service.
mm. Yeah. And so that last part about, directing it right in a manner of service, that is the detachment. And
Hmm.
maybe I guess maybe the hard part, the doing it but not being attached to the results, you know. Um
Hmm.
I suppose at least, I think about it, it seems like the difficult thing where like if you're the
Hmm.
business person and you work so hard, and you
Hmm.
build something and you slowly increase, you hire more people, you know, long days and you work weekends and it slowly builds
Hmm.
and you know, I guess, is the instruction then like you do that, but you're not doing it so that you can reap the benefits afterward. You're not doing it so you can become rich.
Well,
Uh, not like that's not the reason. That may be a result of what you do, but that's not the reason you do it.
now wealth will come. Now, like His Holiness Sadhana Swami Maharaj says, spend with compassion. Where we use the wealth will
Mm,
define the reaction.
mm,
If I use it, say,
yeah.
in intoxications or something, then again I'm getting another reaction. If I'm spending with compassion or in some form of a positive engagement, which is not really selfish. Okay, great.
Hmm.
So there are two angles to this karma yoga: duty itself and the result of the duty. That will help us to progress spiritually.
Mm. So in the example of a business person, would it be following karma yoga to say, okay, I have this business, I want to make money, but I want to put the money in a good place, essentially, right? Is that what you're
Like,
saying? Like it's about
yeah,
what you do with the result. You can still want to have the result, but if you it's sort of it's like why do you want that good
what's the
result? Like
motivation?
why do you want that money? Yeah, do you want to go buy a yacht or do you want to like help people, I guess.
Hmm. Like, like Srila Prabhupada would say, to help spread spirituality is a good investment. Or spending in your home to buy a home, to buy a vehicle, and then you use a home and a vehicle for spiritual development. Great. As long as it's not spent in a sinful way, it is fine. And if it is used, whenever it is used, wherever it is used for a positive growth, that's good.
Mm, mm.
There is one more aspect. I think this is the only thing we discussed today, I guess.
Yeah, probably.
And there is one more thing is the duty is of two types. One aspect of duty is according to one's nature that we discussed. Another aspect of duty is according to one's life situation. This life situation is in Sanskrit is called ashram. Like some people are in a household life, some are in renounced life. So those who are in household life, maybe a male or a female, they have different duties towards the children, maintaining the family. So that duty does not necessarily need to be according to one's nature, but then that everybody has to do. And these two together, it's called Varna Ashram. Varna means the nature, ashram means life situation. And the dharma, which is duty, is defined as varna ashram dharma. It's called varna ashram dharma. So whatever work we are doing, first we have duty based on our life situation. And then to maintain or to fulfill those duties, whatever work I need to do is based on my nature. And I'm fulfilling my duties and I'm keeping the divine in the center without attachment. That's the perfect way to practice Karma Yoga. This whole is called Karma Yoga.
Mm. So follow your nature
Hmm.
and also do what you have to do.
Hmm.
Sort
Your
of
life situation. Yes.
takeaways that I'm getting.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, that's actually I think the time we have for today. Um, but a lot more karma yoga to cover. You know, we basically talked about 5 or 6 verses of
Hmm.
chapter 3.
Hmm.
Um, and we'll sort of continue not just through this chapter, but then chapter 5 talks about karma yoga as well.
Hmm.
Once we get into the knowledge section of chapter 4. So
Hmm.
a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Hmm.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time, Prabhuji.